Ever wonder what happens when a king realizes bigger isn't always better? For centuries, the pharaohs of Egypt's fourth dynasty built colossal pyramids, monuments meant to scream their power across the sands of time. Khufu, Khafre, Menkaure, each one a god-king whose legacy was measured in millions of tons of stone. Their pyramids at Giza were, and still are, symbols of absolute, unquestionable authority. But then, around 2494 BCE, something changed. The age of the giants came to a quiet, almost anticlimactic end. A new king, Userkaf, came to the throne, and with him, a new dynasty, the fifth. He inherited a kingdom obsessed with size, a culture where the monarch's might was directly proportional to the height of his tomb. But Userkaf was different. He saw the writing on the wall. He understood that building ever larger pyramids was unsustainable. The resources, the manpower, the sheer political will required were draining the state. More importantly, he realized that true power wasn't just about commanding men to move stone. It was about capturing their hearts and minds. Userkaf's reign marks one of the most significant, yet often overlooked, turning points in ancient Egyptian history. It wasn't a violent revolution or a dramatic collapse. It was a subtle, brilliant pivot. He looked at the legacy of his predecessors and thought, what if power isn't about outbuilding the past? What if it's about redefining the future? He understood that the real currency of rule wasn't stone, but belief. So, he embarked on a project not of construction, but of ideology. He decided to shift the very foundation of royal authority from the king himself to the gods above. Specifically, one god, Ra, the all-powerful sun god. While Ra had always been important, Userkaf elevated his cult to a status it had never seen before. He made Ra the supreme state deity, the ultimate source of all power on earth. And the pharaoh? He was no longer just a living god, but the son of Ra, the chief intermediary between the heavens and the land of Egypt. To solidify this new reality, Userkaf built something revolutionary. Not another pyramid, but the very first sun temple, at a site we now call Abuser. This wasn't a tomb for a dead king. It was a place of worship for a living god, open to the sky. At its center stood a massive obelisk, a stone symbol of the sun's rays, designed to capture the light of Ra himself. This temple was a statement. It declared that the king's legitimacy now flowed directly from the divine. He ruled by Ra's grace, and his primary duty was to serve the god. This was a genius move. It didn't diminish the pharaoh's power. It re-anchored it. By tying his rule to the unchanging, eternal cycle of the sun, Userkaf gave the monarchy a new, more resilient form of legitimacy. It was a power that didn't need to be proven. With bigger and bigger monuments, it just was. Of course, Userkaf still had to build a pyramid. Tradition demanded it. But his pyramid, built at Saqqara, tells its own story. It's modest, almost humble compared to the behemoths at Giza. The construction was less precise, the materials less lavish. The message was unmistakable. The king's eternal home was no longer the primary focus of the state's resources. The temples of the gods were now just as, if not more, important. By building a smaller pyramid, Userkaf was shouting to the world that his power didn't come from the size of his tomb. It came from his devotion to Ra. He was trading the vanity of personal legacy for the stability of a divinely sanctioned state. This shift had profound consequences. The influence of the priesthood, particularly the priests of Ra, skyrocketed. They became major political players, controlling vast estates and immense wealth. The relationship between king and god was now formalized, a celestial contract that would define Egyptian kingship for the next 1,000 years. So why does this one king with his small pyramid matter so much? Because Userkaf shows us that real change often happens quietly. He didn't tear down the old system, he expertly rewired it. He inherited a kingship defined by brute force and monumental ego, and he transformed it into one defined by religious piety and divine mandate. He effectively ended the pyramid-building arms race. After Userkaf, pharaohs continued to build pyramids, but they were generally smaller, secondary to the grand sun temples they also constructed. The focus had shifted from the cult of the dead king to the cult of the living gods. He understood that an idea could be stronger than a mountain of stone. The idea he built that the king is the servant and son of the sun god was an ideological foundation that would support the Egyptian state for centuries to come. It was a quieter form of power, but in many ways, it was far more enduring. Userkaf's story is a powerful lesson in leadership and transformation. It reminds us that empires don't always end with a bang. Sometimes they just change direction, guided by a leader who sees a different path forward. He didn't build the tallest structure in Egyptian history. He built its strongest, most lasting idea. He proved that true authority isn't about commanding obedience through fear or awe, but about building a shared system of belief. He was the king who changed power, not stone, the quiet revolutionary who redefined what it meant to be a pharaoh. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed diving deep into the forgotten corners of ancient history, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a story. We'll see you in the next one.